Alright, welcome in another video where I'm trying to build basically a MCP server that is helping you to manage tasks, projects, epics, and everything around um, building your projects, building your projects using AI. Um, so for the last couple of days, I've been kind of struggling with the approach I want to take, and I think I kind of figure it out. I still don't know exactly, how. Um, it is a struggle. It's in terms of because I'm like vibe coder and I'm learning on the go. There was a lot of you know um, paths that I tried to explore, and because I couldn't understand the technology, basically I wasn't able to deliver that task. Now I started trying to plan and execute, using project flows as the main tool to basically, you know, to create tasks and execute tasks. And I found that, I shouldn't really say that, but the product that I'm designing is not really fit for purpose in certain situations when you're working with AI, and that is basically one of those situations um, where you don't understand and you prototyping and you kind of you know trying. So because like context engineering works well, in my opinion, humble opinion, if you know what you're doing and you know where you're going and you can plan. But then if you exploring possibilities and you don't know the possibilities and limitations, quite often, trying to do context engineering in that situations, it's more of a hindrance rather than a help. And um, as I was trying to basically implement the project flows, which would basically bring um, the name to its means. Um, I was exploring what is possible within, working with agents and MCP servers, and I struggle with a specific part of understanding, which seems now almost silly as I hit that wall many times within my lack of understanding, is that the MCP server itself is outside of kind of remit of an agent. And I was kind of trying to inject some prompts within the call tools when the agent is calling the tools, but that is not going to work because that tool execution is happening basically on the server that doesn't have AI, or else you provide it through API connection or anything like that. So I'm trying now to implement a solution that basically is a workflow, and it's step workflow that calls a tool with prompt specific request, and then when it actually finishes calling the tool, it has all the answers. So it analyzes, calls the tool, and the idea is that we kind of inject the prompt at the call time, so the agent can analyze and then call the tool with that, with the output of that prompt. And then we need to move to another step that is going to do the same thing. So right, I have been playing around and I had some nodes and I've kind of settled in for starting basically from scratch with kind of agent node and trying to test it in multiple ways. I mean, I've got some old nodes in here that basically I removed in that branch because it was going nowhere. So I'm going to kind of start fresh with the node logic and try to figure out, you know, how it works, what is the best way of working with that. So I've got my agent node, and at the moment I will not need agent, the start node. I'm thinking to actually scrap it, but the agent node will be something that is working on the agent side in my kind of logic. Hopefully it will make sense in a second as we progress. So what do we have here? Right, so we've got that. Right, so implement. I will ask it to basically try to test my hypothesis and create that entry for me in the database. So create or update test workflow to look like this. Okay. We don't need to start anything. Right, all the servers, I'm going to stop it and I will say all servers are running. Running UI and MCP as run dev, as npm run dev, and Postgres and database is running on Docker. Right. Right, so let's do this. Okay, so we've got agent configuration and we've got the prompt. This is nice. Okay, so I want to refresh that. Right, so I cannot see I cannot see the workflow with 3 nodes. I should see it. Right. Can I? Right. It says that I can drag and drop pictures. Oh, I can drag and drop probably from there. Fine. I'm good. I should see it inside as test. Inside of test workflow. So I'm kind of forcing basically Claude Code to build it for me. So we can execute task workflow, yes. Let's reset it. No, still I cannot see still. Alright, do I need to proceed? Right. What are we doing? Yes. So we got analyze, plan, input, task description. Plan. Okay, that is good. We don't have test workflow, but I can save and I can publish. So right, so apparently the workflow is ready. I am going to basically go in here and check what we have. Or I will just ask basically, how do I test it? Right. Serve, source, and serve. Oh, that is rather annoying. Which server? Okay, it's a built-in, so let's close it. Let's close it, let's close it. So we've got MCP tools, that should be working. We've got test, a new workflow. I'm going to try to exit. Use test tool from project. because we don't have any meaningful description, I just requested basically, it's not working. I think there's a problem with I think is a problem with my connection. So I need to refresh. WSO install, go inside, enable. Recently I've got loads of different problems with WinSF. Specifically connection, I don't know if it's WSL or something, but never mind. I'm going to reload window. This means that I need to restart all the servers, which is a little bit annoying, but hopefully it will connect now. So cd UI npm run dev. Right, and now let's do cd ncp npm run dev. Okay, so we've got that. Let's go in here and refresh 28. Yes, this is how many we want. And right, use test. Use test tool from flows MCP. Right, let's see what it's going to do. So action, agent prompt, analyze. Okay, so what did we do? Agent prompt, analyze task. So create task to add big red button. Okay, so task description that wasn't provided. So let's have a look at what do we have in here. Settings. We don't have anything in here. Oh yeah, because it's task description, so it's asking. Right, interesting. So let's have a look. We need Claude. obviously we need to now remove we don't want to execute plan. What we want to do is save this, publish. Right, so CRUD operations don't work. That's a bummer. Okay. Let's have a look at what do we have here. Resume. So it looks like I'm trying to use the UI to delete some nodes and save the changes, and it doesn't work. Can you investigate why? Also, the start node is not compulsory at start anymore. For now, can we just remove it altogether, including the requirements for it to be there at the start? We don't need the start node for now. Right, so let's see this. So the idea is that for now, what I want to do is create basically a workflow that asks for some things in here, the agent to perform. I'm just going to actually change it once we can, save everything. So I want to have like a simple workflow that basically ask agent to do something, then ask agent to do something else, and then finally ask agent to do another thing. And I want to make sure that they preserve the context between the conversation, and then we can basically have a state first to execute it. I know it's kind of going back to basics, but I think that's the important bit that, because we limit it in terms of, how we communicate with the agent, and it is kind of crucial when I want to create tasks. So my workflow of, let's say, creating a task, or at the moment we've got tool to create a task. The idea is that rather than me hard coding that tool within the system, defining that tool in the file in the background, I want to have freedom to be able to create that create tool on the fly within the UI, because create tool might just call one database tool, but it actually analyzes currently the user input, and based on the user input it is creating the title, description, and then analysis. So in the future, rather than doing it everything at once, I want to create set of tools, and then because I might have analysis, I'm usually going to replace the analysis with the plan. So rather than task like in here, having title and the description and then analysis, what I will replace it is basically with plan. But create task, I want to keep limited to basically that and the description. So I want to make sure that whatever input I provide into the agent, and I will say create task, it will just populate only this too. But then it's supposed to ask me, do you want me to plan? And then I can either say yes or no. And my kind of experience sometimes, if I want to execute straight away, then it is yes. Um, but quite often, if we work on a bigger project, or let's say on epic level, where I need to go through the process of planning, more often than not, I want to make sure that that piece, like a title and description, is really what I want, and it covers all the epic before I go to that phase of planning. And sometimes, not always, but I want to do on certain occasions planning just before the execution. It kind of is sometimes silly because I could just use planning in here, but in like Claude Code, um, but more often than not, double planning sometimes provides better results. And you know I can do planning anywhere. I can do planning in Codex, I can do planning in Gemini codices because they all connected. And then I can say, once my planning is done and I reviewed it in my UI, I can just go ahead and say, right, Claude, do your thing, execute. But I think today's challenge that I have is that my process of creating a task is fixed, and I want to make sure I can work with it and make it better, or make some changes if I decide to make those changes. So we have that updated. I can save that. I can't probably remove anything. I'm going to remove plan and save it and reset it. Go back. The execute plan is still there. Actually, before I go and test it, I will remove that again. So I have, right. Let's go back to Cascade. Right, good. I have tried to delete execute plan node, which it kind of allows me to do in the UI, but once I save and refresh, I can still see the node in there. Can you make sure that all CRUD operations work on the nodes, specifically agent node? I mean, all the nodes should really work, but agent node specifically. So even if I would go into a prompt and try to update it, save change, I can see basically the toast popping up saying node successfully updated successfully. Let me check if I can actually refresh that. And it's not saving. So I want to be able to create, add new node, edit, and then edit any node, save it, delete any node and save it, obviously, and then be able to publish it in that state. And when I refresh, I should see, the changes that I've made. Right, let's go and try to ask Claude to fix that. Now, once we've got kind of blueprint, I will go through basically the planning process and try to clean it up. But I kind of need to do like a proof of concept where I feel confident that I understand everything before basically full implementation. As I said, I went through trial and error of trying to deliver that perfect implementation, but it kind of fell short due to lack of my understanding. So I want to make sure I understand it first well before trying to plan and implement the plan. Right, so we've got this. What have we done? Okay. So we've got ace. Oh yeah, we're going from the beginning. Right. I find that quite annoying. Sometimes Claude keep jumping. Um, and I really wish that they one day will create the the interface that kind of slots in here together with all the other ones, so I can keep it and switch between. I'm still a believer that we should be switching between different tools for different things. I know Cloud Code is the best, and I pay the basic tier, so I can use Claude. Um, Obviously, I can't use the I cannot use. Well, I can only use Sonnet and Haiku. Can I change model? Right, what can I use? I can use Haiku and Sonnet. I cannot use. I suddenly forgot the name. What I cannot use. I cannot use Opus. So because I'm paying just the Pro license, I think it's Pro or Plus, whatever it is. Pro plan. I have some limits, but then I pay for Codex. I'm not paying for Gemini. I'm still considering, but I pay for Windsurf. I pay for Codex. I pay for Claude. Between three of them, I still get better deal than paying the Pro license, I believe, or the Max license for you know for Claude. Mm. But the look, I can't really compare because I haven't used the Opus, but in for coding. But it seems to work. Although Codex seems to be good, and I like it for certain things, but I think still Claude, especially now, is better as they sort out some issues. I haven't used Gemini Code for a while, but yeah, I mostly use Claude Code, then Cascade, then Codex. And I think last will be Gemini, but never mind. Let's go back to our our workflow, and I want to save this first. Simple test. Let's just rename the node. Okay, and it's not working. Right, just renamed the node, and the name didn't persist after refresh. Let's try that again. Let's do save changes, save. Okay. It says failed to save the word form. I'm going to basically go in. Maybe I will need to reset the MCP. Okay. Save changes. Save. Okay, so we saved it. Okay, so that's a good result. I'm going to add some 2 in here. Save this. Successfully saved node. I'm going to go in and that didn't persist. Add a 2 again. Saved it. 2. Saved. Saved. Okay, that persisted. So that's good. Ooh, let's have a look. Yes. So I am going to change this to something silly. Right, so let's wait for Claude to finish doing what it's doing. List all the colors in the rainbow. So I'm going to do this. Colors, rainbow, colors. Let's save the changes. Make it myself. I don't know why I'm even worried about that, but fine. So I'm going to save that and I will publish it. And now we will test the MCP again. Okay. So that worked. Well, that's a success. Right, so list 5 grades of shades of gray. List 5 colors. What do I want to do next? What can I do with this? Right, so How can I now? Well, the first one is working, that I'm happy with. And so, okay. Hmm, numbers 1 to 10. Okay, I will save that. Save. We've got this. Save and publish. Publish. All right, let's do this. Okay, the workflow has successfully executed in the first step. The test tool demonstrates a multiple phase workflow system where agent receives prompt and executes them in sequence. Okay. Move to next step. Okay. It's interesting, isn't it? Okay. Right. Something doesn't work well. So I've got the workflow with 3 agent nodes, and the first step executed correctly, but it didn't move correctly to the next step. Um, I need to figure out the way to make it work. So all 3 steps within the workflow are agent steps. I was hoping to literally, as they don't have any conditions between, I would hope that they will be just evaluated one after another. Can you see what the problem is in the current code as it's trying to execute multi-phase workflow after that? I'm not sure if this is correct or not. I was expecting to have one single workflow that if we keep executing the same tool over and over again, we should be at different stages due to the state. Is this possible or not? So again, maybe it's me not understanding the entire situation and how it works. Maybe we will have to have some different execution, but I'm kind of hoping we can have different approach. To this. Do I want to do a next phase workflow, multi-phase workflow? I mean, I don't know. Still kind of thinking we should have like execute task, and you know, if we run execute task again, we should be able to pick up the next step within the state context. State management is probably another thing that we will need to tackle. Right. So I'm kind of thinking the state should be based on the node. Right. Kind of thinking each node within on the canvas will have ID assigned to it. Let's close this. Let's have a look at the database and how this is saved within the database, because that will be crucial. So I'm kind of thinking if we've got this one as a 0 node, this one as 1, and this one as 2, we need to figure out within the state templates. Let's copy this and see what we have. I can't even remember if it's templates or templates properties where we've got the state. I believe it might be in templates properties, but let's have a look here as we're here already. Nope. So that will be yes. That will be in here. So that's the 16 execute plan. Okay, so this is 0 execution order, and yes. Okay, so we will use execution order as a state for now. Obviously, that might be a little bit more complicated if we have two at the same time. But let's worry about it later. Let's have some structure in there. So use the node number. Right, let's go down. call 2, call 3, call 4. Okay. Current step 0. Kind of makes sense. Right, let's test it. I'm going to probably for this I'm going to reset, because I don't think that change, if they change anything on the MCP side, clear, that might not propagate until I refresh the server. So let's do this. Let's restart this guy, and now let's do that. Okay. Let's cancel out and let's go. I think I've done it incorrectly, but now we've got test. Okay, so right, continue. Continue. Right. Actually, why does... Okay, so it looks good. Good. But why did it stop? That's a little bit annoying when Claude does that. I don't know if it's Claude itself, or is it basically anything in Windsurf that, or VS Code, whichever part of the software does it. But let's have a look what it will do. It seems like kind of, if I switch between the windows, it kind of fixes it, so not bad. Okay, so continue. Okay. Right. Right, so let's actually see, because it's asking me to do it. Okay. Right, so it's not working. So right, Right, first of all, I was hoping it will just iterate through steps and call them one by one. So that is the idea of the workflow. And even I call the tool again, it's still done only step 0. It should have moved to step 1, it didn't. So let's paste this as a reference and let's do this. And let's see what it will do. Well, the state is being saved. Okay, so we've got that. Why are you building? Oh, so annoying. Right, I'm going to restart the server again. Clear npm run dev and restart this guy. And let's go. Code should execute still. Okay, so we've got the state. Okay, fine. The test profile is now at step 1 and waiting for the next step to continue. Right. Okay. So fine. I will run it again and see if it will move to a final stage. Okay. It kind of makes sense. Right, fine. It kind of works. The problem is that it is not running it itself. So basically, because I have them connected one after another, I would expect them to execute in chain. So after stage 1 is completed, it should move to stage 2, stage 3, or step 3, if that makes sense. So can you make that happen so they all execute one by one? Okay, fine. You removed. Okay, fine. I think the real question here will be will it still work? Basically, we've got this. I'm kind of thinking, how can I make this kind of work and test? Okay. Right, let's worry about this in a second. I am going to clear that and run dev again. I'm going to refresh the MCP and now I'm going to use heat this to use the test. Okay. Okay, so the problem is you haven't done any of it. Right. Okay, so the problem is you have not executed the prompt. So, so right, let's just clear that npm run dev, and again let's go and restart it. I think we're going back full circle. Same as me didn't understand the problem. I think the problem is that the AI doesn't understand the problem itself. So yeah. Yeah, this is not working. Look, this is not working. We cannot just... Look, this is not going to work because you're trying to execute everything on the MCP side. We need to do one step at the time. So basically execute test, you know, 3 times. The thing is that I want to basically instruct you to execute once by prompting, and then you should know that because step 0 was successful, I need to execute basically the test again to go to another step, and again, knowing that I've got 3 steps. So basically, that must be, you know, like a follow-up, almost like a follow-up prompt after steps execution. Prompt after steps execution. So to force the agent that is using the MCP server to call the tool again. Okay, so we'll see if that is going to work for us. Kind of thinking, what is the best way of doing it? Is basically, you know, the first call that we make to agent. Basically just loading the workflow. And then the agent is executing the workflow. So this looks like it makes sense. It's just how we're going to... So then we've got the instruction. So it's almost like step name. Total steps, step 1. Let's have a look. I mean, I'm kind of a little bit more optimistic about it now, so let's clear npm run dev. Okay, and let's go in here, refresh this guy. Let's run this. Well, something's wrong. Ugh. Right, this didn't work. Right, this did not work. So let's copy this. I think we can make it work. I'm kind of almost thinking like, how should it be done? I'm kind of thinking it's almost like it's almost like the tools that I used. I don't know. Right, I will try that again. And npm run dev. So with this, let's go and refresh this guy. And let's go. Yes. Yes. And that is success. So basically, yes, we call the test tool, you know, many times. Basically, completed. Yes, that kind of makes sense now. And then, depending on which, right, execute the above prompt. So we've got some instructions in here. State is paused. With this. So instruction. Oh, this is not ideal, but fun. The only problem is that we rely solely on agent to basically perform something then and then do something else, which is basically working with prompts and instructions. Don't know if that's the best solution, but for now it kind of works. So we got the prompt. Okay, so it's almost like we're just working with the prompts. Just working with the instructions. State is paused. State is paused. I think we're getting somewhere. I think I'm going to conclude this video and think a little bit about what would be the next steps for it, because I'm quite happy with the results. I'm not necessarily 100% happy with what we're doing here, but I was kind of thinking that it seems like everything is based here on basically instructions. So I need to rethink how this is going to progress, and see if we can make the instructions a little more clever, I guess. With if conditions. Interesting. How do I really want to solve this? Workflow. I kind of got 100,000 thoughts at the same time, in which direction to go, because at the moment for me this seems to be like a logical progression, because every time we call in that, we need to stop and call the tool. Now the prompt seems to be like basically pointless thing in there, so we just need instructions. Then we probably want to break it down into different type of instructions. But never mind, it's kind of something I want to sit down and kind of have a little bit of a thought about. But for now, I think it's good. It's good. I think the instruction bit, we will need to figure out the conditional introduction. We will need to figure out as well, I guess, because yes, we might have different outcomes based on different if conditions. But I think I'm going to take it slow, and for now try to focus on recreating the tools to use. So we're going to have basically, for the first iteration, I'm going to introduce single tools, single agent tools for now, to like create task. This tool will use workflow, will use tools in the background, Hmm. Hmm. That's very interesting. That is very interesting. How am I going to do that with the human in the loop? I will need to. I will need to figure that out. But yeah, for now, I think this is good. This is kind of working and doing what I think I want to do. So we keep it as that for now. And thank you for watching, and I see you in the next time.